Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad. You are looking at a live view of Launch Area 4 at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China, where we are at L-1 hour, 42 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting until launch of Shenzhou 17, the sixth crewed flight to the Chinese space station, the Tiangong station, launching by the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, or ASSC. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and we're coming to you live on YouTube, X, Twitter, and Twitch to bring you full live coverage as we count down to the launch of 3 Chinese taikonauts on board a Long March 2F rocket up to the Tiangong station in low Earth orbit. If it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage here on YouTube or any of our platforms, and let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We got lots of people tuning in. We got Rusty in Australia. Great to see you. Paul's in Nova Scotia. We have JB is in New Jersey. We got D in Australia. We've got What's in Your Heads in Ontario. Great to see you all joining us in. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. You're looking at live views from the launch pad as the crews prepare the final checkouts of the rocket in preparation for today's flight. Over the last hour, while we were waiting for today's Russian spacewalk to conclude, we did watch the crew make their way out to the launch pad among that celebration we normally see and ingress the vehicle. The 3 taikonauts are now on board the spacecraft in preparation for launch, now just 1 hour, 41 minutes, 5 seconds away from launching. We are going to listen in to the live sights and sounds as we continue through the count, and of course, answering your questions in the chat. You can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. If you haven't yet, also take a moment, engage that like button or share it out or repost it to invite people to join us. A rare opportunity to see a launch out of China, as we don't get to see many of these other than for their crewed flights up to the Tiangong station. Many people just joining in. Great to have you here. Amy is in Michigan. Princess, good to see you. We've got Nicholas is in Texas, Paul's in Michigan, Eugene's in Idaho, we got Roxy in Australia, Linda's in Southern California, Ginger, Lakewood, Washington, Marty's in Tennessee, Count is in Massachusetts, Kistini, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, in West Hollywood. Great having you all tuning in with us here. I do see someone made a point. It says Starlink in the top right corner. Let me fix that. Quick little hiccup there. But this is the launch of Shenzhou 17, launching from Launch Area 4, or SLS-1/921 at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. Counting down now 1 hour, 39 minutes and counting till launch, and there's that title updated. Thanks for pointing that out. We're going to listen in to the live feeds that we are getting out of China for today's flight. But if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live. The next major milestone we're watching for as we continue through the count is the opening of this structure that has surrounded the rocket as it was stacked and prepared for flight. We'll watch for pad clear, and then we'll watch for these doors to start to reveal today's rocket. Today's rocket is a Long March 2F, and it is part of the large Long March 2 rocket family. It was designed to launch the Shenzhou spacecraft, and it is a human-rated 2-stage version of the Long March 2E, which in turn was based on the Long March 2C vehicle, and its launch from this complex SLS-1 at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. The first on board today's vehicle, there are 2 engines, the YF-20B, which is a gas generator cycle engine developed by China to use on core stages and boosters of their Long March family, and the YF-24B, which consists of the YF-22B and 23B Werner engines and is used on upper stages of the Long March rocket vehicles. Today's launch is scheduled for 11:04 p.m. Eastern Time, or 3:04 UTC. It is a 40-minute launch window, so if we do need a little bit of time there, they do have about 40 minutes. Right now, they are currently targeting 10 minutes into today's window, so that gives them 30 extra minutes if they do need to hold for any reason. We're going to take some time listening to the live sight sounds and commentated coverage from today's launch, but you can keep sending in those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live as we count down to the launch of Shenzhou 17, L-1 hour, 37 minutes, 52 seconds, and counting. Stay with us right here on the launch pad.
08号 第一次综合检查正常。
太原、
第一次综合检查正常。
渭南、
第一次综合检查正常。
青岛、
第一次综合检查正常。
酒泉、
第一次综合检查正常。
青山、
第一次综合检查正常。
双城、
第一次综合检查正常。
5号、
第一次综合检查正常。
东风，我是华山。
我是东风，华山请讲。
华山第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山、江阴、天路及长江6号第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。 北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
各号注意，我是东风，收集航天员进舱后话音检查准备情况。北京。
准备完毕。
酒泉。
话音检查准备完毕。
0号，我是东风。
0号到。
话音检查准备完毕。
0号明白。
东风，我是0号，航天员进舱后，话音检查正常。
东风明白。北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
各号注意，我是东风，话音检查正常。北京。
北京明白。
酒泉。
明白。
Complex there, and these are live pictures coming from inside the return capsule where the 3 taikonauts have been seated waiting for liftoff. Liftoff is scheduled at 11:14 a.m. Beijing time, less than 1 hour, 30 minutes away. We'll be bringing you comprehensive coverage of the Shenzhou 17 mission, including, of course, the liftoff. The 3 taikonauts have now been seated in their seats in the return capsule. Last-minute preparation is being done before the liftoff. They're holding handbooks in their hands, checking off items that must be completed before the liftoff. I'm now joined in the studio by Professors Jiuquan and Liu Baocheng. Professor Yang, bring us up to speed on what we're watching right now. I mean, the ground staff obviously are still there. They have not evacuated the launch tower.
You can see that just now the ground staff is leaving the orbital module. So I believe the next step they will close the hatch of the orbital module, and then that's just on the same side of the payload fairing. There are also another hatch. They will also close it, and the sealing have very good sealing of that. So after that, the Shenzhou spaceship and the payload fairing of the Long March 2F rocket will be in the final status, and then the ground staff will leave the launch complex. This is also a very important security procedure to ensure that all ground staff, no exceptions, has already on the ground, and they will leave the launch complex with the via a ground vehicle. So only after that we can continue our countdown and to the final moment. At this moment, you can see the just in this floor of the launch complex, we can see that the most of these ground team are from the spaceship system to check if everything is okay. So the team from the astronaut system has already accomplished their tasks to help the astronauts to check their IVA spacesuits and to make sure everything is okay, and then they leave. So everything is in a normal preparation, and we can see that constantly we can also hear the voice from the commander and ensure that every system goes okay. It's go for launch. And with this video, we can see not only the launch complex, but also the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, 2 kilometers away from the launch tower. But also, that we can. This is a video from I believe from UAV, manned air vehicle. Usually during the launch, we have multiple cameras and radar to monitor the status of especially the trajectory of the launch vehicle if it goes okay. So every system must work in very normal status, and that as Mr. Zheng Yibing has already mentioned, the launch side system is also standing by at this moment, because that the rescue team belongs to the landing side system. And during the ascending phase of the launch vehicle, if anything wrong happened, they conducted an emergency escape, the rescue team will find our astronaut as soon as possible. But of course, on the other hand, our astronauts must have their ability to survive in wild field. So this is also very necessary. Still, you can see that, as you mentioned, on the right side is the camera. The video comes from the camera inside the re-entry capsule. All 3 astronauts already sit there, already fastened their safe belt. I believe that just several minutes before the launch, they will close the face masks of their helmet. And they will have the protection of their IVA spacesuit for their if any leakage happens to the cabin. They will have their IV spacesuit to protect them still in the pressurized environment. You know, as seen from the video on the left side of this video, you can see that the launch complex, the rotational platform is still, most of them are closed. Only the top one is open, and the emergency escape system, I believe, at this moment is already activated. So the next step, I think that at this moment, all the propellant tanks has already been filled with the UDMH, or unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine, as the fuel, and also NTO, nitrogen tetroxide, as the oxidizer. So all the, because this is a hypergolic propulsion system in room temperature, and all these propellants has already been filled to the launch vehicle very properly. And then also there are routinary checking and confirmation of everything, and then we go for launch.
I mean, thanks to the abundance of cameras, we were able to see the launch mission from different angles, including after the liftoff. We're going to be able to see the trajectory of the flight from cameras mounted onto the rocket.
Yes, there. You know, that's every time we have a camera mounted on the second stage, on the second stage of the rocket, looking backwards. So we can see that we can from that camera we can see 2 of the 4 boosters, and also we have cameras mounted inside this payload fairing to monitoring the status of the Shenzhou spaceship. And with this camera we can see the separation between the second stage and the Shenzhou spaceship. If the only when the separation is conducted, we can see that this is a successful launch.
And Professor Liu, can I get your take on the impression of the lineup of the taikonauts this time? It's the same combination of 2 new astronauts and 1 veteran. In this case, Mr. Teng Hongbo is the veteran here. He set a record of the shortest interval between manned flights. His first flight was back in 2021 with the Shenzhou 12 mission. This is his second flight. Also, he'll be the first one to return to China's Tiangong space station. So he's a legend already. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. I think one, it shows that there's the successive passage of knowledge and skills by combining the previous batch of the astronaut as the leader with the young astronauts. And so this is really a strategic arrangement. And second, they are the youngest on the average age. So it shows that the Chinese astronauts are really there to be getting younger, and younger generations are getting more and more up to speed. And third is that the combination of their knowledge. They are not really doing very hefty scientific research in the station, but they have to have all the knowledge and sensitivity to observe and also collect all the information and keep a very clear, orderly record and for the research on the ground. And so this is something that's very much encouraging. And then, of course, their health conditions are really superbly drilled and very well prepared. And the past experience of the previous crews do also give not only their knowledge, but also more of the confidence in handling their own health and their living environment, and together with their professional activities that is there to be conducted.
Professors, stay with me here on our program. I'll be back with you in a short moment. The Tianwen-1 is China's first Mars mission, launched back in 2020. And CGTN's Yang Zhao explains how the orbiter completed its mission.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're listening into some live coverage from China there as we continue through the count. L-1 hour, 15 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting till launch. The first hatch has been closed, the Shenzhou spacecraft hatch, and now they are finalizing hatch closure on the fairing of the Long March 2F rocket. You're looking at a drone shot of the Long March 2F rocket enclosed in the Launch Area 4, or also known as SLS-1/921 launch site at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. Great close-up shot there. That rocket is enclosed on the right side of that structure in the center of your screen, and we're waiting to see all those doors open, revealing tonight's Long March 2F rocket. We're waiting for the pad clear to be called once they finalize that hatch closure. The taikonauts have been on board for about an hour at this point. We were going to go live to show you crew walkout and boarding in ingress, but the Russian spacewalk went a little bit longer. We want to make sure we covered that all the way until they were back on board the International Space Station. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launch Pad, and you're joining us for our live launch coverage of Shenzhou 17, the 6th crewed flight to the Tiangong Space Station, the Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. We're counting down now just over an hour, 14 minutes and counting till launch. Today we have a 40-minute launch window, currently targeting 10 minutes into that window as we count down towards Shenzhou 17. On board, you heard there just a moment ago, one returning taikonaut, and then 2 new taikonauts on board. The commander, who is flying for his second time, is the first person to return to the Tiangong station in low Earth orbit. If you guys have comments or questions, you can send those in the chat. Just make sure you tag us at the Launchpad so we can see that in the chat. If you're watching over on X or Facebook or Twitch, we invite you to join us over on YouTube. That's where you can become a TLP member, get a cool helmet next to your name. But we also invite you to join us over on our Discord. That's where our community hangs out in between launch streams and space news updates, and we hope you'll join us there. If you're also interested in becoming part of the TLP crew, we are looking for a few new moderators to join our team, as well as some journalists and data people for our TLP research team as we continue to expand our space database. If you're interested, head over to tlpnetwork.com and you can check that out there. I do want to make note, it's a launch day, and normally we would say head on over to the TLP shop, use promo code LAUNCHDAY to get a discount, but we're super excited to have partnered with our manufacturing partner to be able to relaunch our store with a new price drop available. I know, price drop, shocking to hear, and we're super excited to be rolling that out over this week. Some products are already up with the new pricing. Our whole store will be back online by the weekend as we get ready to roll out our holiday collection as well, but we're super thankful to be partnering with them to have lowered production costs, which is shocking in this time, to be able to offer you more TLP launch gear and space merch at a more affordable price. So definitely something to look out for in the coming days. You can keep sending in those questions. Look in the top right corner of your screen to look at the official countdown clock. We've got our synced. Bottom right of your screen, that's a live view inside the Shenzhou spacecraft where the 3 taikonauts are fully strapped in, awaiting for launch. And a left view, beautiful aerial shot of the launch pad. And as it rotates, you see the somewhat copycat vehicle assembly building about 2 kilometers away from the pad. We're waiting for pad clear, and then the opening of that structure, revealing the Long March 2F rocket in preparation for today's flight. We do keep listening in to the live audio there. Here's a great view now of some of the basically security cameras. You can see the crew inside the fairing. So that first kind of wall you see someone going through a door, that is actually the fairing of today's rocket. And then looking through there, you can see they're working on the actual hatch of the spacecraft itself. On the top right, I believe that's looking at another part of the spacecraft on board where some of the storage is. But you can see there the team of the white crew inside the white room in preparation for closing the fairing hatch, and then they will clear the pad. 1 hour, 11 minutes, 10 seconds and counting to launch. Very much like a Russian launch, where we do see crews at the pad quite late into the count, and this is nominal. This is normal to see, so no need to be concerned as of yet for that, but we will be keeping a close eye. These people, though, you can see on the bottom left corner of your screen, actually, there is like a kind of dotted line almost. That is actually where that part will retract away from the rocket as the building opens up, revealing the rocket, making it have the ability to launch. Saw a couple questions coming in. How soon will it dock? I will work on getting that. I do not have that in my notes just yet. but we have seen them dock within just a couple of hours. Normally, they don't do live coverage for docking. If they do, we'll try to come back for that. If not, stay tuned at tlpnetwork.com/news, or stay tuned here on the launch pad for a clip of that, as they do normally release that following the docking at the Tiangong station. This would bring the station up to 6 people on board, which means Shenzhou 16 will be preparing to head home in the coming weeks. And of course, we'll bring you live coverage of that, now just under 1 hour, 10 minutes and counting until launch. A live look at the weather there. Currently 8.8 degrees Celsius. I believe top right would be wind, 2 meters a second, which is good conditions. And I'm assuming the bottom left would be visibility. So probably 30 kilometers visibility, which is a great sign. You can see just a very light wind in some of the bushes and shrubbery around the launch site. Lots of flags out at the launch site, giving them a really good indication of how winds are as we continue to count down. 1 hour, 8 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting till launch.
各号注意，收集2小时准备情况。0号。
2小时准备完毕。
太原。
2小时准备完毕。
渭南。
2小时准备完毕。
青岛。
2小时准备完毕。
酒泉。
2小时准备完毕。
青山。
2小时准备完毕。
双城。
2小时准备完毕。
5号。
2小时准备完毕。
天仓。
2小时准备完毕。
Really the primary elements of learning how to live and work in outer space. It's wonderful to see that new focus from all these nations, from particularly some of the largest populations on Earth focused on space.
See, we have seen the growth of China in space sector is really tremendous. I think you are giving a lot of push to create the required infrastructure in terms of technology capability, in terms of building new systems and launching new missions. I think this shows your directions are very forward looking, and I am very appreciative of that part of the work that you are doing. And it is also goes with the long-term vision that you have created for the space sector.
Why not? This is also a possibility, but sending an astronaut is a possibility. But before that, we can give some experiments to be realized, to be done in Tiangong space station. And because in ISS we will hold 13 experiments, our astronaut, but that's not all. We have many more. So when we find the opportunity, why not? We can also do it in together with CNSA in the space station.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. A little bit of excitement there on the clean feed. So we count down 1 hour, 2 minutes, 45 seconds and counting till launch. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad. And here at TLP Network, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. If you think we should add some sound effects like that to TLP, let us know in the chat, and we'll see what we can do. Would you like to have sound effects like that anytime that I'm coming back to do commentary or things? Let us know what your thoughts there as we continue to monitor, waiting for launch crew to clear the pad as we continue through the countdown. 1 hour, 2 minutes, 10 seconds and counting till launch. The crew still working on those hatches. We should be seeing the closure of that fairing hatch soon. There's a live view inside the Shenzhou 17 spacecraft with the 3 taikonauts on board. 1 returning taikonaut going for his second mission to space, second mission to the Tiangong station, the first ever returning, and 2 rookie taikonauts. We are expecting to see that pad clear here in the next few minutes as they prepare to open away the structure away from the Long March 2F rocket as we continue through the count. In the chat, Amy, that was funny. Brian blew out my ears. Sorry, that wasn't on us. It's kind of cheesy. Sharon, no sound. Tech Tinkering thinks we need some rock and roll. Princess says it brings in some dynamic vintage cable news stings. We'll see what we can do. Might be fun. Eki, sorry, relaxing with my headphones on, reclined in my chair, and that frightened out of you. Sorry about that. We're keeping an eye on that as well. Mission control audio is fine. CGTN is too. Yeah, so what we're doing, we do have a live feed from the CCTV feed for today's launch. In the top left corner, you do see a pop-up coming out. That's a requirement through YouTube due to it being a Chinese government-funded source. That pop-up comes in and out, just notifying us of that. So apologies if that's there. But this is supposed to be the clean feed. But every now and again, we do get an interruption of some audio coming through that isn't mission control. As we're coming through the count, you can see a view of the launch site. We do have CGTN patched in. We're monitoring it if anything important comes. That person's been talking on screen for about 30 minutes. So we're going to keep an eye on the pad. That's where the excitement is and the live views are as we continue through the count. If you're just joining us, though, welcome here at the launch pad. We are continuing to count down to the 6th crewed flight from China, launching T-minus 1 hour and counting till launch of Shenzhou 17 from Launch Area 4, also known as SLS-1/921 at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. Today's Long March 2F rocket is fueled up, ready for launch here today. It is the human-rated 2-stage launch vehicle version of the Long March 2E, which was based on the historic Long March 2C, and is preparation for today's flight. This will be the first launch from this pad of this year. It'll be the 35th launch from the Chinese Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation of 2023, and the 183rd launch globally of 2023. This will be the 10th ever launch from this pad, and the 442nd launch by the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation. And just to throw a fun stat, this will be the 6,726th launch in space history. So that number quickly getting up there. And, if depending how next year goes, we might see that 7,000 number get hit. We still got a few months this year. And, if they keep pushing those numbers next year, we'll see what happens. Amy asking if there's rocket sounds. We have the audio patched in, and that's where you heard that loud music. So we muted it for a second. We've got it patched in again, and we're hearing what they're sending. This is very different, obviously, from a U.S. launch provider, a European launch provider, where we kind of have an idea what we're going to get. China, it's hit and miss on what we get, and we want to make sure we're bringing the best views, and then sounds will do secondary, because it's better to see the crew than not see the crew and hear an interview, at least in our perspective. But because we got time, we're answering your guys' comments and questions. You can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live to the best of our ability as we continue through the count and listening in to the live coverage more there. Brian, wow, I thought it was a lot yet less.
我是东风，第2次自动检查，5分钟准备，景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。
明白。
太原。
明白。
渭南。
明白。
青岛。
明白。
酒泉。
明白。
青山。
明白。
双城。
明白。
5号。
明白。
Now, I do not speak the language, but that sounded like a go, no, go poll to me, and it sounded very the same. So I'm going to say positive, because we want to see a launch here today. T-by 57 minutes, 15 seconds, and counting till launch. There you can see a good view inside the launch tower. Those crews doing final preparations on the fairing hatch. You can see through on the top left, well, you could see until he moved over, you can see a look into where the Shenzhou 17 spacecraft is, where that hatch has now been closed and sealed, and the crew's preparing to close the fairing hatch. Fairing, of course, will separate during flight. Very similar to Russia, where we see the final checkouts happening late into the flight. On the right side of your screen, you can see them moving some of the chairs. Top left, you can see them taking some pictures on what looks to be an iPad. All good signs that they are safing the area and preparing, and there we have it. The fairing hatch has been closed and is now being sealed. T-minus 56 minutes, 20 seconds and counting until launch. We are awaiting the launch crew for final checkouts and pad clear.
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山、江阴、天路及长江6号第2次综合检查5分钟准备完毕。
东风明白。
I will mute.
收集5分钟准备情况。08号。
5分钟准备完毕。
太原。
5分钟准备完毕。
渭南。
5分钟准备完毕。
青岛。
5分钟准备完毕。
酒泉。
5分钟准备完毕。
青山。
5分钟准备完毕。
双城。
5分钟准备完毕。
5号。
5分钟准备完毕。
I will mute anytime we hear mission control audio coming through, just so those that do speak can hear those live sights and sounds. You can see they're taking photos showing that the hatch has been closed, very similar to what we see with SpaceX, where they close the hatch and now they do checkouts. This is the fairing hatch, so you're seeing the side of the rocket here. You saw them there a moment ago carry a couple of the chairs away. I expect to see that last chair packed up here momentarily as they prepare for that structure to be opened around the rocket. You can actually see, well, you could on the top left, one of the fairing grid-type fins that they use on the Chinese rocket.
我是东风，第二次综合检查1分钟准备，50秒。40秒，30秒，20秒，10、9、8、7、6、5、4、3、2、1，起飞。T0，腰动时19分59秒，拐腰动毫秒。T0，腰动时19分59秒，拐腰动毫秒。
A couple people in the chat saying they're counting down to something, counting down to some final checks, which would make sense that they're counting down to maybe pad clear, because they do want to open that vehicle, the vehicle structure, sooner than later in a launch countdown. So definitely something that they could be counting there, but obviously they want to make sure the hatches are closed correctly. Those chairs have now been retracted, taken away.
第二次综合检查情况，景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。
第二次综合检查正常。
太原。
第二次综合检查正常。
渭南。
第二次综合检查正常。
青岛。
第二次综合检查正常。
酒泉。
第二次综合检查正常。
青山。
第二次综合检查正常。
双城。
第二次综合检查正常。
5号。
第二次综合检查正常。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山，江阴天路长江6号，第二次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
So I just translated what we saw on the screen there a moment ago in that top right corner. It said command procedure, 1 hour preparation. The job content is the second comprehensive examination. And that is what is underway here at this time. Unfortunately, they don't have much more live translation than that, but we are translating as much as we can as we go along.
华山请讲。
华山第二次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
A second comprehensive examination is part of their launch sequence, so everything continuing to count nominally, T-minus 51 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until launch. Welcome Somewhere in Space. Sending a question, what is this launch for? It is launching 3 Chinese astronauts, to the Chinese space station called the Tiangong station in low Earth orbit. There's 1 returning taikonaut going for a second flight to the Chinese station Tiangong, and 2 rookie taikonauts. You're looking at a live aerial view and now a close-up of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, specifically Launch Area 4, also dubbed SLS-1/921. Own Santi, thank you so much for that super chat. Greetings from Argentina. Great to have you here. Thanks so much. You can see a crew there literally tapping their feet, maybe of boredom, waiting for the crew to clear the white room away from the rocket so they can clear the pad. That definitely seems like a couple of bored workers there, but the rest of the team looking to be seemingly quite active in preparing to clear the facility and preparing for those large doors to open up, revealing the Long March 2F rocket. Peter, will they have coverage of docking to their station? They did a couple times, but not every time have they. So we will try to bring that live coverage to you. But if for any reason we're not able to, we'll of course bring videos and photos of that later tonight or early tomorrow. If you're just joining us, though, welcome here to the Launchpad. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us as we go through the final minutes. T-minus 49 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until launch. Taking a quick look at weather conditions. Currently 14 degrees Celsius, it's saying. Very light winds. We saw that earlier. Obviously, it is just now getting into the early morning hours over in China, so starting to warm up. Nomad asking, really great question. What is China's crew rotation time? It's right around 6 months as well. So very similar to what we see with the United States, Russia, and all of their partners. There's that live view of that clock for the count, as well as a view inside the capsule, the Shenzhou 17 capsule. Great question coming in the chat from Brian. How many engines does this vehicle have? The Long March 2F was designed to carry specifically the Shenzhou 17 spacecraft. It has 4 boosters on it, which are powered by one YF-20B per booster. The first stage, or core stage, has 4 YF-20B engines on it, and the second stage has one YF-24B. So at ignition, you actually have 8 of these same engines, the YF-20B, that will fly, and then of course you'll have booster separation, and the core stage will continue. The boosters fly for 291 seconds of specific impulse, burning for 128 seconds total. The first stage has 291 seconds of specific impulse also, but will burn for 166 seconds. So for just about 30 seconds longer than the first stage. You can see there the launch escape system on the top of the Long March 2F rocket. This rocket has launched 20 times and is 100% successful, having had its first flight on November 19th, 1999. Its last flight was earlier this year on May 30th, 2023. It carries the Shenzhou, the Tiangong 1, Tiangong 2, as well as the Chinese reusable experimental spacecraft. It can carry up to 8,400 kilograms or 18,500 pounds to low Earth orbit, and it's 203 feet tall, 62 meters tall. We'll hopefully be able to see the vehicle here in the next few minutes. But quite amazing to have a 100% successful vehicle. This vehicle was one that we've known for a while, but it has had some pauses in its use throughout the times, having spanned a number of times, having breaks of 2 to 3 years in between flights. But this will be the second flight that we will see of it this year. It flew 3 times last year and 2 times the year before that. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat, tagging us at the Launchpad. We're answering those as we continue. DJ asking a good question. How many crew can the capsule carry? 3. So the Shenzhou spacecraft has been designed to carry 3 people on board its capsule. The Shenzhou spacecraft capsule, just in general, resembles very much the Russian Soyuz, but it is slightly larger. It first launched on November 19th, 1999, but it had its first crewed launch on October 15th, 2003. In March 2005, an asteroid was named 8256 Shenzhou in honor of the spacecraft. A little fun knowledge there. To give you an idea of volume, it has 7 meters cubed habitable space and can spend up to 183 days in orbit. 17 have launched, 17 have been built. We're going to see the 17th one launched here tonight, but they have one operational. The last launch of Shenzhou, the spacecraft, was Shenzhou 16, which launched on May 30th, 2023, and this crew will be going up to replace them aboard the Tiangong station. The spacecraft itself weighs 7,840 kilograms, or 17,280 pounds, so can only carry a little bit of weight with it. It can spend up to 200 days in orbit, but they target 183 docked to the station, just to have a little bit of wiggle room there based on weather. Robert honestly surprised China's streaming this. They always stream their crew launches. That is the one thing they do, which is always quite interesting. China expanding their partnerships with other nations for their lunar base station, as well, partnering with a number of new nations in the last few weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how much more we see China in human spaceflight operations broadcast. Ocean pointing out, yeah, the Shenzhou spacecraft is about 10% larger and heavier than Soyuz. That's why this view looks so similar to seeing a Soyuz launch. Still a little congested, and there's that poker. We all love to see the poker. That's one of the things that's unique to the Soyuz and the Shenzhou, that the crews have to use a poker that's extendable. You can see them there retracting it away to actually be able to reach their control panels that are placed in front of them. We do have the audio still patched in, so you are hearing any audio that comes through from Mission Control as we continue through the count. Jonathan, I've also heard of a Chinese telescope that will periodically dock with Tiangong. Have any more info on that? Yeah, it's actually a really interesting concept of what they're doing. I don't know if it has... I'd have to re-verify if it has launched yet or not. But it's basically this telescope that would be, for a lack of better words, not the same meaning, almost a moon to the Tiangong station. So it can separate away and stay in an influence with the space station, taking photography of the station or whatever else it's pointed at, but separate from the station's vibrations and everything, and then can redock to the station as required. So a really interesting thing. I'd have to double check if they've launched that or not. I know they had some changes in... Originally, the station was going to be 3 modules, expand to 6. Now they're talking about expanding it only by 1 module, but it'll be an extended module. So a couple people saying it hasn't launched yet. There's a great view under the Long March 2F rocket, looking at 4 of those engines.
浪高 1.5 米，风力4级，能见度15公里。景山、天路、长江6号1小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。北京明白。
And we are waiting to see that building start to open up around the Long March 2F rocket, preparing for the final bit of today's launch countdown. A great view from on top of the launch pad's tower. And there we have it. The launch pad has begun opening.
华山1小时准备完毕，报告完毕。北京明白。
Some great views there showing Launch Area 4's SLS-1/921's pad opening up, revealing tonight's Long March 2F rocket. A first look there at that core stage and the 4 boosters attached. L-minus 40 minutes, 44 seconds, and counting till launch. The crew's still going through final pad clear. We'll get rid of our overlay here for a moment.
北京明白。我是北京，长城请讲。 北京明白。我是北京，天宫请讲。北京明白。我是北京，银河请讲。北京明白。
There you can see those 8 engines, 4 on the core stage and 1 on each of the 4 boosters.
北京明白。
And awaiting the beginning of opening of the 3rd set of doors. The first set at the very top have been open for some time. The second set now almost completely open, fully revealing today's Long March 2F rocket. Some fantastic views from all angles of this vehicle. If you haven't yet, take a moment, gauge the like button, share out the stream. We are counting down 38 minutes, 45 seconds and counting to launch. You have to give it to China. Well, they don't live stream often, but when they do give some pretty incredible views of their launch pad. They also have quite a few more buildings right next to their pad than most other countries. If you guys have questions, send those in the chat. Take us at the launch pad. Waiting for that confirmation of final retraction of the first level. You can see actually on that view there, those white kind of teeth inside the doors. Those were what would fold down and allow crews at different levels right up next to the rocket like we saw up at the top. We'll see that when they retract the 3rd level away where the crew capsule is, where those crews actually help the crew ingress and the launch crews cleared away that we saw earlier in our live broadcast. 37 minutes, 50 seconds and counting till launch. Everything continuing nominally towards flight of the 6th crewed flight to the Chinese space station, Tiangong Station. You can see the small little flame diverter there in front of the rocket. It also swoops under the tower and comes out the other side. You can see those large doors have now retracted, even past that halfway point, retracting all the way around, basically becoming flat with the tower to help protect all of those access zone levels so that they have a quicker turnaround time on the pad should they need to or want to. Get out there. Helps protect the pad, but allows them to have access to basically all levels of the rocket all the way up to about 15 minutes ago. Unlike most vehicles that we see launch out of the States, once they roll out to the pad, they only have access actually to the Dragon capsule unless they roll a crane out. So we're waiting for the opening of the 2nd and 3rd level. The top level is already fully retracted. The 1st level is now retracted almost all the way. Brian V, what is your favorite launch pad? Mine is French Guiana. Well, I have to say the launch pad YouTube channel. Favorite launch pad, French Guiana and the New Zealand Rocket Lab's New Zealand one are I would say pretty tied. They're pretty beautiful. Japan's is really beautiful. I'm super excited to see Saxiford come online in Scotland on the Shetland Islands. I think that one's going to be a really incredible launch site that a lot of people haven't seen yet. We're excited to hopefully take you there on location early next year. We'll hopefully see that first flight from RFA in the coming months. Lots of pads very similar like that, where they're right on the cliffs and quite beautiful view. Let us know in the chat, though, what's your favorite pad? Ginger says 39A at NASA Kennedy Space Center. It's a hard one to beat. KSC, the history at 39A, quite an incredible place to be. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. T-minus 35 minutes, 20 seconds and counting till launch. You're looking at a close-up view scanning the core stage and the boosters of the Long March 2F rocket as we prepare through for launch here, carrying 3 Chinese taikonauts to the Chinese space station. Raymond saying, I remember a China launch where they had a camera in the flame trench. They do have some incredible cameras, and we did see a couple of shots already looking right up at those engines.
收集1小时准备情况0号
1小时准备完毕。
太原
1小时准备完毕。
渭南
1小时准备完毕。
青岛
1小时准备完毕。
酒泉
1小时准备完毕。
青山
1小时准备完毕。
双城
1小时准备完毕。
5号
Actually speaking,
1小时准备
it
完
is
毕。
now less than 1 hour.
1小时准备完毕。
The launch, but you know that's the what it mentioned. The voice mentioned the 1 hour preparation is a portion that lasts for several minutes. So the Commander Zero must confirm that the 1 hour preparation has already been done for all these systems. There should be no exception and go for launch. And you see, as we already mentioned, that the rotational platforms will be opened one by one, because just before that we have to conduct all kinds of checking.
Well, sorry about the audio there. They cut in on the clean feed with one of the interviews as we continue through the count, but they're duplicating their audio. Otherwise, we would have listened in. We'll listen back in just a minute. T-minus 33 minutes, 35 seconds and counting till launch. We're waiting to see the level 2 and level 3 doors retract away from the rocket. Saw a couple questions in the chat about the engines. The first stage and the boosters use the YF-20 engine. There are 4 of them on the core stage and 1 on each of the boosters. The YF-20 engine is a Chinese liquid fuel rocket engine that is a gas generator cycle. It burns a combination of N2O4, also known as nitrogen peroxide or tinitrogen peroxide, which has been used by the USSR and Russia for it. It also uses UDMH, and I'm going to probably say this wrong. It is a very long title. Unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine 1-dimethylhydrazine. It is a colorless liquid that is used as the propellant. So these are liquid boosters and a liquid core stage that are being used on the Long March 2F vehicle here. This engine has quite a history, though, having been used for a while on a number of different vehicles, including the Long March 2, Long March 3, Long March 4, and the Fengbao 1. Has 1 chamber, and the nozzle ratio is 12.69. It can burn for about 160 seconds and can range plus or minus 10 degrees depending how it is integrated. If you guys have questions, keep sending those in the chat while we continue through the count. We're answering those live as we await and listen in to some of the sights and sounds of the count. They're continuing through one of their interviews there, so we'll listen back into Mission Control here in just the next few minutes. Some people answering what's their favorite pad in the world. I see a couple people saying Vandenberg. It's a great one. Rocket Labs in New Zealand. Mars 2028, that's a mouthful. It really is. But a liquid core stage and liquid boosters. This is not a reusable rocket. So the core stage and the boosters will crash back down, most likely to land, for today's flight. So we continue looking at these live views of the launch area, continuing through the count. We're waiting for that second and third level of the launch facility to open up. We'll, of course, listen back into Mission Control through the final moments of the count, but this time they're continuing now, coming up to that 30-minute mark. They're scheduled to launch at 11:14 a.m. Beijing time, 3:14 UTC, or 11:14 p.m. Eastern time, or 8:14 p.m. Pacific. They have a 40-minute launch window today. The launch time they're currently targeting is 10 minutes into that window. So if for any reason they do need to delay a little bit, they have time in the window. And I believe because of the type of vehicle, they are able to do that delay. But we'll continue to listen in. Nothing pointing towards them needing that. Looking like some beautiful weather there. T-minus 30 minutes and counting till launch.
Liftoff. I mean, Professor, you've been comparing the Long March 2F with 2E, other models in the same series. I mean, countries that are capable of rocket science use their own rockets, the United States, India. How does the Long March 2F compare with, for example, Falcon and the rockets that India uses?
The capability.
We'll cut in there from the echo coming from the clean feed, but you can see there level 2 now beginning to retract away from the launch, the Long March 2F rocket, the launch area 4. Hey, Space Intelligence, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in. Your favorite is Rocket Labs in New Zealand. It's such a beautiful pad. It's a hard one to beat. I think RFA might tie it with a few other companies that'll launch out of Saxford. In the Shetland Islands, but definitely some beautiful ones. Jonathan saying Spaceport America count, lovely design from the architecture firm. Yes, Spaceport America is definitely a beautiful space airport terminal. I guess spaceport, it's in its name. It's not really a launch pad, but sure, we can count it. But absolutely, it is a beautiful looking building. If you're just joining us, welcome. You're looking at an aerial view of Launch Area 4, SLS-1/921, the Jiuquan Satellite Center in the People's Republic of China, where we are counting down T-minus 28 minutes, 26 seconds and counting to the launch of the 6th crewed mission to the Tiangong station, Shenzhou 17, launching aboard the Shenzhou spacecraft. If you guys have questions or comments, we're answering those while we continue through the count. Just make sure you're tagging us at the launch pad. DJ point. Oh, great shot there. Just showing you the speed at which this tower is retracting away. We're riding on board one of those doors that retracts away from the side of the rocket. You can see some of those umbilical arms that stay out attached to the vehicle until the final minutes of liftoff. Mars 2028 saying 0B at Wallops Island will always hold a special place for me since that's the first pad I saw a launch from in person, and it was NROL 111. That's awesome, Mars. Haven't been out to Wallops yet, but it's we got some of our rocket chasers out there, and it really is a cool launch site as well. Brian V, what new commercial rocket company are you most excited for? Oh, I got so many. I've had the privilege of talking to so many executives from a number of those companies, and I'm going to interrupt myself. You can now see that level 3 door also swinging open, revealing the crew area, that fairing with the Shenzhou 17 crew on board the Shenzhou spacecraft having closed in. We are 27 minutes and counting till launch. And you can now see those level 2 and level 3 doors retracting away, and the Long March 2F rocket now standing cleanly at Launch Area 4 as we continue through the final moments of the count in preparation for liftoff here today. But yeah, Brian, favorite up-and-coming rocket company? So many. We have an interview with Stoke Space coming out in a few days, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Super amazing thing they're working on. We've got friends over at RFA, Skyrora, so many other companies over in the UK and Europe as well. So it's not just the big companies. Everyone's always focused SpaceX Starship. There's a lot of other vehicles coming online that I would challenge are almost just as exciting for the near future as well. Starship's going to take us to Mars, which is pretty cool. But we don't want to forget everywhere else we want to go and study and research and expand and explore. It's not just all about the moon and Mars. T-minus 28 minutes, 55 seconds and counting. You can see that Long March 2F rocket now fully revealed. One core stage with 4 boosters, both the core stage and the booster sharing the same engine, total of 8 engines. 4 on the core stage, 1 on each booster. We have a different engine for the second stage. The second stage has 1 singular engine. You can see almost like a hot fire ring there in this view from the vehicle.
You see, that's for any spacecraft, the launch to chasing and rendezvous docking with another spacecraft, especially in the low Earth orbit, the basic and the most important requirement that when the second spacecraft come into the orbit, it must be in the same orbital plane of the first one. So this is the most important requirement, because you know that the low Earth orbit, the spacecraft in the low Earth orbit has a very high velocity, 7.8 kilometers per second. So even a very slight error in the orbital plane between the two vehicles may cause they will lose the chance for rendezvous and dock. So they must be in the same orbital plane. But on the other hand, you see that the orbital plane of the outstation is relatively stable in the universe. So we can only launch our Shenzhou spaceship when the launch site, the launch complex, rotating together with the Earth, when it rotated to the position just almost in the same orbital plane of the Tiangong space station. So that is the reason why we read this zero launch window. So it is very narrow and very strict. So this also raises a very high requirement to the reliability and robustness of our launch vehicle and the Shenzhou spaceship, because we must check everything. If anything wrong happened, we must stop the procedure, and maybe the launch window today will be abandoned. So we will list at least 1 day. And as you mentioned, today we choose the fast rendezvous and docking. It raises an even higher requirement to the launch itself, because not only it requires the two spacecraft to be enter the same orbital plane, but also their position in this orbital plane have some requirement to meet the requirement for the faster rendezvous, for 6.5 hours. Usually, you know that for this this kind of mission in 2011, we used 2 days. So this is also an even more strict requirement. And you know that our Tiangong spaceship also make a world record to using less than 2 hours from launch to rendezvous and dock with the Tiangong space station. But for the manned spaceship, we keep a good balance between the how fast it is and how reliable it is. So 6 hours is already very, very comfortable for astronauts. You may experience that every day you you drive your car. Of course, you stay as short as possible in your car between the transfer, because it is too narrow in the car. Of course, if you stay in the room, it will be much more comfortable. You can recognize our Shenzhou space station as a room, and the Shenzhou spaceship as a car. So with shorter period stay in the Shenzhou spaceship, they'll be more comfortable.
Absolutely, it's a remarkable commute to an office room, to a living quarters, whichever way you put it. And if you're watching our special program today on CGTN, through CGTN live streaming on our social media platforms, we value your feedback also. Feel free to leave your questions. We'll put some of these questions to my guests here in the studio, Professor Yang Jiuquan and Professor Liu Baocheng. They will be more than happy to take your questions, and we encourage you to do that as you stay with us on our special coverage of the Shenzhou 17 mission. We are now about 21 minutes away from the liftoff. These light pictures from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center show a quiet, serene scene there at the launch complex. The rotating platforms have opened.
You can see at this moment, all the rotational platforms has already opened. I believe that at this moment, the ground team has already at least withdrawn from the service tower. And maybe not all withdrawn from the launch complex, but absolutely they will already left the service tower. But as I mentioned, still at this moment, there are several small arms in brown color which still attached to the launch vehicle to give electricity, the gases, and also the other supplies. Also, you know that there are air conditioners inside our payload ferry to give a very comfortable condition for our Shenzhou spaceship.
And the 3 taikonauts seem ready and relatively comfortable given the condition in their seats, holding handbooks.
Yeah, you may notice the packages between the luggage between the different astronauts. You know that there is a very interesting requirement. The position of the center of the mass of the re-entry capsule is very, very strict. This will influence, especially that during the re-entry, it will influence the safety of the astronauts and also the position where they can land. So this, that's the different people have a different weight. So even the slight difference between the weight of different astronauts must be considered.
And they could they gain and lose weight during that 6 months? I mean, that's that's
there is the standard criteria.
I mean, they measure. I assume they weigh themselves on a regular basis just to make sure health element, to make sure their health is in check. But what if they gain weight or lose some weight during that 6 months stay?
This is also part of the research. I think.
Exactly.
So because of biological research for human tolerance and human impact is also part of the research.
But of course, the most important is the upper limit. They should not exceed that.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think anybody has ever exceeded that limit, right?
Yeah.
Considering how regularly, how often they check their weight and their health status up there in the Tiangong space station.
And you can see the beautiful view of our Jiuquan satellite launch center. The forest in brown color at this very beautiful season.
And now as we await the launch of Shenzhou 17, let's once again check in with CGTN reporter Sun Ye, who joins us from the launch site. Sun Ye, we're minutes away from that 15-minute countdown, a crucial countdown to liftoff. What's the latest on the ground?
Well, the commander here hasn't called out that 50 minutes countdown yet, but this is the moment, the minus 15 minutes. Oh, he's calling it now. This is the command that he will be calling out the last cars, the last people near or under the launch tower to evacuate, and the last file of cars could be in our view to leave the launch tower. And as it gets near the launch hour, we've been talking to rocket designers, and they say even though they've seen it so many times, this hour it's still intense. And for us, we've been hearing 准备好了, we are ready, everything is normal, 正常 throughout the morning, and we've learned that all the system from rocket, spaceship, they are safe and reliable. This is still a moment quite intense for people who are working here, and we imagine it could be more so for the taikonauts. And we have one small trick from none other than Yang Liwei, the first taikonaut in space. He said to deal with that kind of anxiety, there was a small trick. He said you could try putting your tongue in your cheek like this, but probably don't show it. That would take the your focus off everything else and take the anxiety level down. But perhaps the taikonauts today, the Shenzhou 17 crew, they don't need that. Yesterday we heard Tiangong, where the commander said he's very calm because he only has his mind on one thing, on getting the mission accomplished, and that's what we're here. We are here to witness now, to see them, to see the liftoff, and to see the mission gets accomplished. 庄石.
Well, just so you know, I did try out that trick just now when we were showing the pictures, and I was not on the screen. And I don't know, maybe it'll help. I mean, it's a trick from China's first taikonaut. I gotta try it. Thank you so much, Sun Ye, for that update. We appreciate it. And we continue our studio discussions here and conversations until the liftoff happens in just about a little over 15 minutes time. That liftoff scheduled at 11:14 a.m. Beijing time. Professor, can we talk about that window for liftoff? Because we've had a lot of manned and unmanned launches, and each liftoff time is very different. Some in the middle of the night, and today in morning, not exactly early morning. How is that window decided? I mean, what are the parameters and elements that need to be taken into consideration? Weather, for example, is one of them?
Weather is very important consideration, especially the speed of the wind. will be considered either in the low altitude and in the high altitude. Moreover, you see that you already mentioned about the launch window in different time is quite different. Some in the night, some in the morning. This is because you know that the change of the orbital plane of the Tiangong space station is relatively slow comparing with the Earth, but still it's changing. So every time it's in a different position. And we've already mentioned that the basic requirement is that after the launch of the Shenzhou spaceship, it must be in the same orbital plane of the Tiangong space station. So in different seasons.
我是0号，15分钟准备。
Okay, T minus 15 minutes and counting.
Yeah, this is really to synchronize the universe in which the space shuttle is placed in order to synchronize everything that is precisely to be made sure get connected.
I mean, just at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, we have the collaboration of 3 systems: the astronaut, the space craft, and the other one being the launch vehicle systems. They have to cooperate and collaborate closely, and then we have the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. We have the ground stations, the monitoring stations, the monitoring ships. You have to coordinate between all of these systems to make sure that everyone is on board, everyone is on the same page for the liftoff. And that is how all of these real-time coordination happens, why this real-time coordination happens.
And you can see from this video, the previous video is come from unmanned air vehicle and UAV near the launch complex. So today, the UAV is widely used to monitor the whole situation. So it's very convenient for usage.
But don't they pose risks to the launch? I mean, they
not.
They're of course very low altitude.
Yeah.
But then they're around.
And also, it's far from the trajectory of the launch vehicle.
Okay.
So you can see that the ground team is retrieving from the launch complex.
So the last groups of ground staff, what remains of the ground staff right now?
The ground staff is just in previously work on the launch complex. So you know that's the person in charge will count if the number is correct. So if the number is not correct, then must be someone remained on the launch complex. So even in the most serious situation, they will stop the launch process.
Let's check out some of the comments left by our social media users. They've been watching our special coverage here on CGTN, and they, I believe, have some questions. And let's check out some of these questions. We have a lot of comments flooding in. I don't know if we have time to review all of them, but let's take a look at some of them. For example, what happens to the human body if someone spends 2 years in near zero gravity, like on the moon or Mars? Professor Yang?
Okay, this is a good question.
Nobody has ever attempted that. I mean, even with space stations, you rotate every few months.
You know, that's the record today for a single flight in microgravity field is achieved by Mr. Polyakov, just passed away in recent years. But his record is 437 days in orbit. So this is the highest record made in the Mir space station. So also there are several crew have already conducted the residence in International Space Station for more than 1 year. Actually speaking, the human being has already conducted these kind of studies. Absolutely, the influence of microgravity and also together with the radiation have a remarkable influence to the people's health. Especially, you know, that
in what ways?
In many ways, you know, that's the weakening of our neural system and our muscles, the loss of the bones, the loss of the calcium, and also the psychological problems. All these are very serious problems. So we must have the certain countermeasure to dealing with these kind of negative influences.
And let's also take a look at this other one. How do the people breathe in the craft, in the spacecraft, and in the space station? How do they breathe? There's oxygen in the spacecraft and on the space station.
Usually, you know, that in our space station,
各号注意，我是0号，下面通报点火时间。点火时间为11时13分59秒。 点火时间为11时
The commander they were
13
announcing the final ignition time.
Set at 11:13:59 seconds. That's the precise time when the ignition will happen.
This is very interesting. You know that China adopted a quite different system from other countries. What we mentioned is the ignition time. And the other countries, for instance, US, use the liftoff time. So this is different. There is a several second interval between these. So you may always notice that Mr. Zhong Shi already hosted so many launch live coverage. You may heard the voice just after the liftoff, and one of the ground staff will report the actual liftoff time. Because you know that as the commander, the chief commander has already mentioned, they announced the ignition time, and there will be several seconds interval for the liftoff time. So another person will announce this liftoff time just after the launch. And for the question, you know that China adopted a mixed atmosphere on board our Tiangong space station, which means 20% of oxygen and 80% of nitrogen is quite similar, but very close to our ground. So the astronaut will be very convenient inside the station. But you know that in the EVA, it will be quite different. You know that the higher pressure is, the more rigid the spacesuit is. So if the difference between the inside and outside the EVA spacesuit is 1 atmosphere, it will be very, very rigid, and it will be impossible for the astronauts to move and change the shape of their bodies. So there is no exception that all space-capable nations choose the pure oxygen atmosphere inside their EVA spacesuit. So before that, we must have some adaptation procedure for the astronauts from their common daily life in our station to the EVA, because they will change from the mixed atmosphere to the pure oxygen atmosphere. And in the pure oxygen atmosphere, the inner pressure in the EVA spacesuit is only 30 to 40% of the common atmosphere. So for this change, we have a very critical procedure to remove all the nitrogen inside our body, because it will boiling if we change that very fast. That will be very, very dangerous.
And I guess we have time for a couple more. A viewer named Azul Celeste asks about the measures to deal with debris and pollution in the space. We covered this in our earlier discussions. I mean, there has been minor damage, very minor damage to the solar wings of the Tiangong space station. And part of the tasks for Shenzhou 17 is that they will inspect some of that damage, not exactly to the point where they have to repair or fix that, but they will definitely take a look. Yeah. But what happens if that damage is a little bit more extensive, let's say, in a hypothesis situation?
You know that in the orbit for the space debris, there are hundreds of millions debris with a size less than 1 centimeter. So for this kind of debris, it's very difficult to track for tracking because it's too small. So we use the shield to protect the space station. But for bigger ones, for instance, for those larger than 1.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. On the right side of your screen, a live view on board the Tiangong space station in low Earth orbit, as we are now 6 minutes 50 seconds and counting till launch of the 6th crewed mission, Shenzhou 17, set to launch from Launch Area 4, SLS-1/921 at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. The count continuing nominally here tonight, T-minus 6 minutes 30 seconds and counting till launch. You can see the 3 taikonauts on board the space station now watching live coverage of this evening's, or this morning for them, but this evening for us here in North America's launch. Some people out at the viewing gallery as well, as we now come down to the final 6 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting until liftoff. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage the like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us. We're broadcasting here live on YouTube, but we also are broadcasting over on Facebook, X, and Twitch. So if you're joining us on those platforms, make sure to follow along or join us over here on YouTube. If it's your first time, welcome though. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and here at TOP Network, the Launchpad Network, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us here. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth, as well as our Launchpad news channel for space news updates, exclusive one-on-one interviews, and factory tours. L-5 minutes, 25 seconds and counting till launch. On the left side of your screen, a look there at Launch Area 4. The 4 different levels of the launch tower have retracted away, and you can see now an onboard view. The 3 taikonauts strapped in, ready to launch. 5 minutes, 10 seconds and counting until liftoff. As always, here at the Launchpad, we do that final countdown. Let's see that go, no go in the chat. T-5 minutes and counting. We're going to listen in to China's mission control and live coverage for the final minutes of the count. But as always, let's see that go, no go for launch in the chat.
I do want to bring you here and talk a little bit about international cooperation, because China has invited astronauts from all over the world to cooperate and participate in its future space station missions, of course, through a selection process. I mean, what does that say about China's commitment for its manned space program to be open, to be cooperative, and to be inviting, where all of its fruits, if you will, all of its achievements will be shared with the international community? Professor Liu.
Well, first, China does really agree with the first treaty of the United Nations that we are not really claiming territorial space in the outer universe. And that has really received popularity on the value-based one. And of course, technically, because Chinese space is getting more reliable, and we can also see through generations of improvements. And we are really talking about the 3-bedroom and 2 sitting rooms of apartment in the outer space, so that can really accommodate the scientific research in a more comfortable fashion. And the other is that China provides the more of the open attitude to have more inclusivity and to support the bipolicy, particularly the developing countries also to participate. And we are also ready to share the data for scientific use, etc. So this is really the attractiveness of the Chinese for more of the
T-3 minutes and counting till launch of a China Long March 2F rocket from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. Looking at a live view of some of those umbilicals attached to the rocket, providing air conditioning and power as the vehicle prepares to ignite. T-2 minutes, 40 seconds and counting till launch.
Can we see Earth from a geostationary orbit in the visible spectrum?
Seriously speaking, yes. But you know that there is no any geostationary orbit manned missions before and today, because it's not necessary. You see that to send a human onto the geostationary orbit, the energy required is also almost equal to that to a human lunar mission. So that will use a very huge launch vehicle, but it's really not necessary. Why to do that? There is no reason.
T-2 minutes and counting till launch. Live view of the launch viewing area. Shenzhou 17 will dock just over 6.5 hours after launch. T-1 minute, 45 seconds and counting till liftoff.
Absolutely. To the ignition time, everyone is watching with breath that is bated, including all three of us here in the studio.
You may notice that the service arms are still attached to the launch vehicle. So after we change the power supply from the ground to the internal batteries, we will detach the rotational arms. And also we mount some cameras on these arms. We can also monitor the whole procedure to ensure safety. Actually speaking, this belongs to the launch side system. And before this launch, all these things must be operated to check whether if everything, for instance, the motors for the rotating is okay.
T-1 minute. Do you think the Shenzhou well, you mentioned the Shenzhou 16 crew could be watching all
yes,
of this
through
in the space
video
station
uploaded to the from the via the.
But they're not able to talk to them,
Tianlian.
right? They're not be able to give them a just a pep talk to encourage them or anything like that.
That depends what they will send to them.
Okay.
No, already launched all the detachment
All
of the
right.
arms. holding.
Okay, the arms are detached.
Yeah.
30秒。
Oh, you can see
30
as
seconds.
detached. In the station, they are watching.
Well, we just saw some banners. Welcome.
20秒。
2 minutes, 20 seconds. Professor Liu is getting nervous. I can
10、
feel that.
9、8、
9,
7、
8,
7、
7,
6、
5,
5、
4,
4、
3,
3、
2,
2、
1.
1。仰卧。
Ignition.
起飞，起飞。
After continuing, the first step will be over change the flight direction from a vertical distance.
Now we go to the boss.
有权分序转弯，
Magnificent as always. As we continue to monitor the trajectory
有
from
权
here
光学
on
跟踪正常。
CGTN.
And Shenzhou 17 has launched from Launch Area 4 at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. T plus 40 seconds into flight, those 8 main engines burning, 1 on each of the boosters and 4 on the core stage. An onboard shot as the vehicle continues to fly, now 50 seconds into flight.
The second stage of the rocket and looking backwards, so we can see the 2 boosters.
These cameras are so important. They bring us a real-time scenario, real-time monitoring of what is going on with the rocket to see its trajectory and to really visualize how that flight is going. I think it's super important.
So I believe at this moment you can see the direction has already changed. So the pitch over has already been successfully conducted, and the next.
A fantastic shot there showing the crew on board the Tiangong station watching Shenzhou 17 launch to orbit.
And how much
listening into the commentary.
The jettisoning of the escape tower.
Escape tower. About 100 seconds also.
100 seconds. That's about a minute 40 seconds into the flight. We could see the separation, the jettisoning of the emergency escape
and
tower.
This, I believe at this moment it's already supersonic and already past what we call the max Q, which means the maximum aerodynamic forces to the launch vehicle.
I mean, this is something the taikonauts would have experienced in their training also.
Okay, jettisoned.
Okay, the escape tower has now been jettisoned.
And the next critical step will be the separation of the 4 boosters. About 2 minutes.
About 2 minutes into the
金山
flight,
USB
we will see
雷达跟踪正常，
boosters
遥
come
测信号
off.
正常。
We also heard voice that all the ground stations tracking very normally, either the optical telescopes and the radars.
I love hearing them. I love hearing them report that everything is going on smoothly, normally. They have a very calming, very soothing voice.
Great.
The boosters have come off.
4 boosters. Oh, and also the first stage is separated.
The first stage has been separated.
Yeah. We have a camera on the rear part of the second stage to monitor the working of the main engine of the second stage. We have 1 main engine with a thrust about 80 tons, and also 4 vernier engines to change the attitude of the launch vehicle. So we can see the optical images based on the ground telescope. This is what I mentioned, the video from the camera mounted on the rear part of the second stage. We can see the big thrust is the main engine. And this is the engine mounted inside the payload fairing. So the next step will be the separation of the payload fairings.
The separation of the payload fairing will be
great.
Yes, that's
separated.
Separation.
Okay.
Now it's in the sunlight. The astronauts inside the cabin can see the sunlight through the 2 windows.
I mean, some of their predecessors used to, play with pens once they reach 0 gravity.
And
So
the
you can
next
see-
step, after several minutes, will be the shutdown of the main engine. But still, the 4 vernier engine will be still continue working to adjust it, to make sure that it's precise enough.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that the taikonauts are doing fine. They seem to be doing okay in their seats.
That's the Shenzhou 617 flying eastwards. Along its trajectory, we have the Weinan, exactly.
Yeah.
Weinan ground station in Shanxi province, and also we have the Taiyuan Satellite Launch Center. We also have a ground station.
So this stage will probably take a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can see the background is the horizon of the Earth, very bright. They were already outside the atmosphere.
I mean, all of these cameras, they withstand such high temperature. They work magic.
Well, that still there is a interval between the camera and the rocket engine, so it's not in a very high temperature, still very safe.
Okay.
And you can see the small vernier engines just on the left. So that vernier engine is used to change the attitude of the this second
Got
stage.
it. Look at the Shenzhou 16 crew watching from the space station.
With the continuous working of the rocket engines, because the propellants are become less and less, and the acceleration will be greater and greater, so they will feel the G-forces acting to their body are increasing at this moment.
So this is what they're going through at this point in the flight.
Okay, Qingdao station has already captured the flying object. Qingdao is the last ground station to track the combination.
Okay, so this is the part where the taikonauts could feel a little bit more discomfort in their seats.
But it's already better than in the atmosphere. You see that in the atmosphere, because the international, you can see the 3D animation. We can see the links between the ground stations and the launch vehicle. There are multiple ground stations have tracking the launch vehicle, and all of them are receiving the telemetry data, which presents the current status of the launch vehicle. So we can have a 3D animation, although it is an animation, but it represents the real status of the flying objects.
You were saying, Professor, that at this point the taikonauts are feeling a little bit better than
yes, experience the G-forces and also the vibration. You can see that the main engine is still working, but the next step will be the shutdown of the main engine. Now 7 minutes have passed. Usually the shutdown will happen about 8 to 9 minutes.
Yeah, on the right bottom corner, the Shenzhou 16 crew
is watching, as I mentioned.
The Shenzhou 17 crew, I mean, they must be very happy to welcome the Shenzhou 17 crew, because this will mean that their mission, their 6-month-long mission, will soon come to an end. They return to Earth on October 30th, and there will be that happy meeting, happy handover.
They will welcome their new colleagues after 6 or 7 hours.
With open arms, I'm sure. So in 6.5 hours or so, the spacecraft will conduct an automated
run to the main engine is shut down.
The main engine has now shut down.
This means that the Shenzhou spaceship is already in orbit, but we will adjust its trajectory with the 4 vernier engines to make it more precise.
It is the minute that leave the ground that the astronauts will feel more uncomfortable. Right now it's getting more stabilized.
Exactly, because the main engine has shut down, there is no greater G-forces acting on their body.
Yeah, it's not, when we sit in the vehicles or airplane, it's really acceleration.
Yeah.
That is having a big stress on us.
So
they take off and landing.
Right.
So the next critical step will be the shutdown of the 4 vernier engines. And at this moment, as Professor Liu has mentioned, they will experience the 0G.
Right.
And with this camera mounted on the second stage, looking forward, it will monitor the separation of the Shenzhou spaceship.
It will monitor the separation of the Shenzhou space spacecraft from the carrier rocket.
Yeah. So just on the previous video, we can see still we have the communication links between the Qingdao station and the launch vehicle.
And Qingdao being the last ground station.
Yeah. So the separating point is just above the Pacific Ocean, very close to the eastern coast of China. Actually speaking, near the Shandong province and Jiangsu province.
长江6号发现目标。
Tiangong 6号 is the what we call the Yuanwang 6 space tracking ship of China. So it is now in the Pacific Ocean to be the last one to support the launch.
How many of these tracking ships do we have for this mission? Do we know that?
It depends.
游击关机，船舰分离。
Okay, this is a key moment. The spacecraft has separated from the carrier rocket. Professor Yang, does that mean that Shenzhou 17 is now in its predetermined orbit?
We will have some checking whether the orbital parameters is accurate enough. Only in these circumstances we can announce it is a successful launch. Moreover, there is also another two important steps. One is to that's the unfolding of the solar panels, and also the deployment of the hanging antenna to the data relay satellite.
天路发现目标，宽波数，天路报告。
So there you can see on the left is the Shenzhou 17 crew, right the Shenzhou 16 crew.
Yeah, they are watching the coverage.
Obviously, they're watching the coverage. They're watching what the Shenzhou 17 crew are faring, how they're doing, and they will meet each other in about 6.5 hours aboard the Tiangong space station.
So our Shenzhou 17 crew has already, all these three crew members have already entered the club of astronauts.
Absolutely, and they're flipping, look, the pens are floating again.
Yeah.
They're flipping through that handbook
They are just
again.
enjoying the zero-G.
They're now able to enjoy after, the more dangerous, the
Yeah.
more risky
So
part of
look,
the flight.
This is a video comes from the camera mounted on the propulsion module of our Shenzhou spaceship. So it can monitor the unfolding process of the solar panels.
Look at our beautiful blue planet.
Just above the Pacific Ocean.
Just above the Pacific Ocean.
The propulsion module will conduct several orbit maneuvers to chase its target, the Tiangong space station, and to accomplish the rendezvous and docking. It will work all automatically.
Professor Yang, they don't have to do anything, right, at this point, but they're flipping through the handbook. What does that tell us?
No, they are actually speaking, the three astronauts have very important role to monitor everything. So
how do they monitor from
to check?
Inside
There were instruments and there are echoes of every parameter. Great.
Okay, those are their solar panels, right?
Yeah, unfolded.
Okay, the solar panels on the spacecraft have just unfolded, which indicates, primitive success of the launch.
Yes. That's we on the propulsion module we have two solar wings and each have 4 panels.
We're hearing that the solar panels have deployed.
The previous voice comes from the astronauts because, as I mentioned, there are instruments to provide them all the critical parameters.
So they're able to see that the solar panels have deployed normally.
Not to see with their eyes, but to see in the instruments, the data.
The data. So they were reporting back to their ground colleagues that based on the data they see in the instruments, the solar panels are working.
The SADA, or the solar array drive assembly, also work normal.
I think after they get out of the sight of the detection on the ground station, the astronauts will play a more active role in reporting data.
Don't worry. Just 2 minutes before, there is a voice mentioned that Tianlu connected, which means that the data link between our Shenzhou spaceship and Tianlian data relay satellite has not connected. So there will be a continuous connection.
Right, and civilians also. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we are being watched by a lot of social media users. This exciting blast off.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. T plus 14 minutes into flight. You're listening to live commentary coverage from China of the launch of Shenzhou 17 with the live mission control audio. The left side of your screen, a beautiful view looking off the spacecraft, the beautiful planet Earth. Top right of your screen, a look on board with the Shenzhou 17 crew, still strapped into their seats, having just launched 14 and a half minutes ago. And the bottom right, a live view inside mission control. We've had confirmation of a good spacecraft separation, solar ray deployment, Werner engine shutdown. The crew is safely and successfully now in orbit and on their way to the Tiangong station, with docking expected 6 hours, about 30 minutes from now. This is the 6th operational crew mission for the China's space program to their Tiangong station. The commander today going for his second flight to low Earth orbit, will be the first person to revisit the Tiangong station, and 2 brand new taikonauts have earned their wings, now successfully arriving in orbit and heading to their station. If it was your first time watching, welcome here to the launch pad. My name is Zach, the founder and host here at the launch pad. Here at TLP Network, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have had you joining us. We've been live broadcasting on Twitch, Facebook, X, and of course right here on YouTube. If you're watching on one of our other platforms, join us over here on YouTube. Engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth, or special event right here on the Launchpad channel. Make sure you subscribe to our secondary channel, Launchpad News. That's where our space news updates, exclusive one-on-one interviews, factory tours, and all live teleconference and briefings will be covered starting in November, so make sure you subscribe there. And join us over on the TLP Discord. That's where our community hangs out in between launches. It's free to join, and we love to see you there. I'm hanging out in live comms. Be in there for a bit of a post-show as well, so if you have questions, you can always jump in, say hello, or ask questions in there. It's also a place for our community to hang out even when the TLP crew's not in comms, so you're always welcome. But with that, T plus 16 minutes, 10 seconds into today's flight, the crew now successfully on orbit, heading to the Tiangong station. That's going to do it for us here tonight from our TLP Canada studio. My name's Zach, and we'll see you next time. This was our live launch coverage of Shenzhou 17. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time, because space is better together. Good night.